Good afternoon. My name is Louise Moore. I'm here to present a research proposal looking at helping urban diabetic teens have more normal range blood glucose values during the school day. For the purpose of this presentation, the word diabetes will refer only to insulin-dependent or type 1 diabetes. Type 2 diabetes will not be a consideration during this presentation. So what is the problem? The biggest challenge for someone with type 1 diabetes is consistent and immediate skip control of blood glucose values. The normal range is between 70 and 150 milligrams per deciliter. Without good control of glucose in the blood, organ damage may occur over time. Diabetic teenagers present a dual challenge regarding disease management. The first is developmental in nature. Adolescents tend to challenge authority and therefore can be non-compliant with care. The second challenge is physiologic, as changing and growing bodies can make blood glucose control more difficult. The school is an ideal place for these students to learn how to control their glucoses before adulthood. This project will show better adherence of medical regimen translating into normal range blood glucoses, utilizing the unique connection with the school nurse and texting the students. The ultimate goal is for the student to become independent and competent in their disease management. As of 2015, approximately 193,000 American children have been diagnosed with diabetes, making it one of the most common chronic childhood diseases. Type 1 diabetes is an endocrine disorder usually diagnosed in childhood, wherein the pancreas stops producing insulin. Insulin is the hormone responsible for allowing the individual cells to utilize circulating blood glucose for energy. Although the cause is generally unknown, it is thought that it stems from an autoimmune disorder and is noted to run in families. Each diabetic must inject insulin multiple times per day for their entire life for their survival and overall health. School students with diabetes must be closely monitored during the school day. Without monitoring, the student can experience hypoglycemia or hyperglycemia. Hypoglycemia occurs when the body has too much insulin and not enough circulating glucose, and must be immediately treated with carbohydrate in the form of a simple sugar. If left untreated, the student could become unresponsive and ultimately die. Conversely, hyperglycemia occurs when the body lacks enough insulin to allow the circulating glucose to enter the cells and be utilized for energy. Chronic hyperglycemia can lead to damage of many of the body's organs, including the eyes, kidneys, and vessels. Untreated hyperglycemia can cause the student to fall into a diabetic coma, known as diabetic ketoacidosis. This is a rare but life-threatening condition. Therefore, vigilant and tight control over blood glucose values and insulin doses are critical for long-term health. This proposal will describe an intervention focused on adolescent teens and the effect of daily texting with the school nurse. So the question is, among insulin-dependent teens, will texting daily with the nurse result in blood glucoses within the normal range, again, 70 to 150 milligrams per deciliter, compared with students that don't text? Here are two examples of previous studies utilizing text communication between the diabetic teen and their healthcare provider. As you can see, the hypothesis is that urban insulin-dependent diabetic students will have more normal range blood glucoses if they text routinely with the nurse compared with those who do not text. Insulin-dependent adolescents will be identified and will be randomly placed in either an intervention or a control group. The intervention group will receive a phone with instructions to text with the nurse throughout the day. The control group will continue with regular care. This care involves the student performing the blood glucose test in front of the nurse and administering the calculated insulin dose. Observation by the nurse will alleviate the possibility of self-reporting error. The average of the individual students' values will be calculated every day for each group. The text may be informational in nature or motivational. The student may text back at will. The nurse will keep track of how many texts occur each day per student to confirm that at least one text has occurred. As this study is proposed to introduce an intervention to improve prove blood glucose values, it is important to draw study participants from a pool who are less likely to have normal range blood glucoses. The population will be randomly chosen from diabetic students in the Rochester City School District in western New York. The city of Rochester has a high population of low-income African American and Hispanics, two groups known to have higher incidences of diabetes than some other demographic subsets. In addition, the city of Rochester has a poverty rate of greater than 50%, which causes other issues. For example, individuals experiencing poverty may have barriers to diabetic management, including comprehensive health insurance, access to medical care, and availability of supplies. Lack of reliable transportation can prevent the student from keeping scheduled doctor's appointments, picking up needed supplies and healthy foods, and being collected from school due to an illness. Uninvolved and unsupported families can prevent the diabetic student from good management, as does the level of education and health literacy of the student and his or her family. The sample size is calculated by the G-power analysis using a two-tailed t-test with an alpha error of 0.05, a medium effect size, and a power of 0.9. The calculated sample size is 86 participants in each group, a control group that does not text with the nurse, and the group that does. As with any study involving human subjects, especially children, IRB approval and continuing oversight will need to be obtained and maintained. A well-worded, informed consent will be collected from each of the students, parent, or guardian explaining the study, how the student will participate, and for how long. There will be a clause allowing withdrawal from the study at any time by either the student or his or her parent. Students will not be able to participate if parental consent is not received. The student will also be asked to provide written consent. Some limitations include, but are not restricted to, bias on the nurse's part, as she may be influenced by texting with some but not all her diabetic students. She may inadvertently provide more comprehensive care to the students in the intervention groups. The students may introduce bias by better attending to their care because they are being monitored as part of the study. Perhaps the student will self-manage well during the day, but may relax during non-school hours and weekends without interactions with the nurse. Each member of the intervention group will receive an identical phone for the length of the study, which will be 6 months, as will the nurse, to ensure each student can participate if randomly chosen. At the conclusion, the phones will be collected and destroyed to protect the student's privacy. The blood glucose results will be entered at the time of collection by the nurse into a medical program utilized by the school district, which has built-in firewalls and is password protected. The identifying data will be coded to ensure anonymity. Teachers may not allow students to text during the day or during instruction time, so some student questions might not be immediately attended to. By comparing the blood glucose levels between the two groups and determining if they are in the normal range or not, we will be answering our research question. More specifically, we will be looking at whether or not the blood glucoses fall within the normal range. At the end of each day, the students' blood glucose values will be averaged. Then the subsequent averages will be melded together to determine if the average for the day falls within the normal range or not. An independent t-test will plot the means of the two groups on a graph as a way of comparison at the conclusion of the study. Each participant will receive an identical glucometer and applicable test strips. A glucometer is a small metered machine that analyzes a tiny drop of blood to determine level of circulating glucose. A digital value is displayed on a screen. There are many different types and brands of glucometers. Using identical ones for this study will prevent any possibility, albeit slight, difference in results. Techniques for collecting sample will be clearly stated to reduce the risk of both interrelator and intrarelator error. The students will be monitored by a registered nurse as opposed to an LPN or a school health aide to reduce the possibility of educational differences. Past studies have shown that blood glucose levels in diabetic teens have been normalized by daily texting with a nurse. Health professionals may consider introducing a technique including text into their practice. Theoretically, diabetic blood levels improve when teens text with their school nurse. Thank you.